being that it's Monday morning in the 7 o'clock hour, we've been talking with our good friend Dr. Dennis Norem from Mercy Health throughout this entire coronavirus pandemic, and we are continuing that because we aren't done yet. He's kind enough to carve some time out of his schedule for us. Dr. Norem, good morning to you.
Good morning to you guys.
How you doing this morning?
I'm doing well.
Good to know. Oh, by the way, before we get to the COVID thing, Joe and I, about an hour or so ago, talked about a tweet from the Wisconsin Department of Public Health warning Wisconsinites away from, well, they call them tiger sandwiches, cannibal sandwiches, whatever it is. It's the raw ground beef with the onions, the salt, the pepper, apparently a Wisconsin tradition. And the Department of Health every year comes out and yells at people and says, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. Some listen. Others respond on Twitter saying, I've done this for 60 years and never had a sick day in my life. We're going to keep doing it.
Well, you know, some people win the lottery and some people don't.
Right.
Eating raw meat is a bad idea.
Okay.
It's just a really bad idea. And we're all aware of the E. coli outbreaks that we see periodically throughout the country. Now, recently, those have been more related, I think, to produce, but certainly meat is one of the culprits. So please, people, don't eat raw meat.
Is worst case scenario for E. coli, is that death or is that just an upset stomach? Which one are we going with?
A worst case scenario is the one that kills people. There are several different strains that are more aggressive, and I can't remember the name of the one strain that's really very aggressive, causes death. So you have to be careful, and again, cook your meat.
Okay.
Now, I know people eat sushi and some of that raw fish, and I guess some of that's okay, but eating raw red meat, I think, is a really bad idea.
Yep, and so does the Wisconsin Department of Health, as they were tweeting out very early this morning, hey, knock it off out there, stop doing it. Feel free to have 10 to 15 old fashions, but stay away from the raw ground beef.
Yeah, not exactly a ringing endorsement for sushi either from you.
Yeah, see, you don't sound like a sushi fan.
No, I can tolerate a little cooked sushi if the fish has been cooked, but the raw stuff, I leave it alone.
Okay, right, there. You heard it.
I'll let somebody else have it.
You heard it from an actual doctor, not just a couple of goofs on the radio telling you what to eat. So there you go. Now, over to the topic at hand, watching some of the video this morning, it was like watching Santa pull the sleigh out of the North Pole. We're seeing a bunch of videos showing these refrigerated monstrosities getting moved out across the country with COVID-19 vaccines aboard.
Yeah, very encouraging development. Very exciting. I mean, you saw the people lining up applauding. I mean, it really is sort of that day that we've been waiting for. And I think the head of Operation Warp Speed called it our D-Day. But we're just at the beginning of this adventure to try to get people vaccinated.
Yeah, we asked you last week, what your office was getting ready for. Has there been any developments last week? You guys get new refrigeration units, anything like that? You guys ready to roll out at your office?
Well, nothing specific at my office, but what we did receive last week was a survey as to whether we would participate. I think it was an anonymous monkey survey. They just wanted to get an idea of the employees, what the attitudes were. And so the rumor mill is that they're going to start vaccinating this week, but I don't have any specific information as to which day, where it will be. My guess is it'll be in one location for people to get the vaccine, and it won't be spread out yet to multiple locations because of the fact that it's going to be, small numbers of vaccine, and they have to develop the priority list, which obviously be the healthcare workers with the highest exposure to the COVID patients. But I haven't seen anything specific yet.
Let's real quick. Let's make that survey a little less anonymous. Consensus around your office of everybody in on taking the vaccine, or is there still some people that are a little cautious of it?
I think for the healthcare workers on the front line, at least from what I've heard, is pretty much the vast majority are going to take the vaccine. Now, I haven't discussed it with a lot of people, but from what I sense is people are looking forward to this, at least at the office. But it does concern all of us because of the recent surveys we've heard. I think the most recent one I saw, general population survey, was 50% said yes, 25% weren't sure and 25% no. And that's still kind of discouraging to see that high number of people who are still saying no.
What do you think the reason is behind that? They're waiting to see more of, I guess, a wider swath of test samples to see if there are side effects, or they're not comfortable just basing it upon, well, we tested on this many volunteers, we're pretty good with it. You're waiting for more. I saw this. People aren't going to do it until Dr. Fauci does it on TV. Former presidents doing it on TV. That sort of thing. What's the jump we're waiting for?
Well, I think that'll help when we see our politicians. Well, they should actually do the politicians last. Let me back up. I think when we see.
But for the optics, maybe they should do them first. I understand it in order of importance, but I think maybe for the optics, they ought to go politicians first.
No, you make a good point. We need to see people from all different segments of society on TV who are, well-known athletes, probably politicians. But certainly Fauci, our past presidents, I think that will push a lot of those undecided people over to saying, hey, if those people are doing it, I'm going to do it. I think the problem with the 25% is something that has to do with this misinformation. I did learn one other new word in the last couple of weeks called the infodemic. They're calling the amount of misinformation that's on the internet part of this infodemic, and that misinformation includes, I'm sure you've seen this, that supposedly the head of Pfizer said the vaccine was female sterilization. People are saying that there are microchips in the vaccine. People are concerned that the new vaccine is going to alter their DNA. There's rumors going around that the vaccine contains lung cells of aborted fetuses. I mean, there's just all kinds of crazy information that people, for some reason, want to latch on to. And I think that is some of this stuff.
Yeah, so just to kind of piggyback on Raul's question there, the concern isn't so much that the vaccine isn't effective against COVID-19. It's just the main concern is just side effects still, right?
Absolutely. It's safety. There's no question that this was a timeline that's, shortened what would normally take several years down to what, basically 1 year.
Yep.
So there is this concern about safety that we've only tested it in samples of 40, 50, 60,000 patients. However, it's very encouraging to see that the data from those studies have shown that it's extremely safe. So we just have to proceed ahead and monitor and see how it goes.
And if those numbers are indeed accurate, let's say the poll numbers that we look at actually reflect the feelings of Americans, which I don't know if I'm ever going to look at a poll the same way again and feel that way. But at the same time, let's say it's accurate. I read something the other day that 50% of people taking that vaccine is not enough for herd immunity then to do what it's supposed to do.
No, absolutely. We need to get our vaccination numbers up into the probably 75, 80%, maybe even a little higher, as you find out that there are going to be people that don't respond to the vaccine. And the other question that still isn't completely answered from the studies is how effective is it in reducing the infectivity or the contagion of the vaccine. So in other words, we know it reduces your individual's ability to get the disease, but we don't know how effective it is in stopping the spread of disease. We just don't have the numbers yet. We assume it's going to be, but time will tell.
Infection rate numbers still in case numbers still climbing. I think everybody knows a couple people that have been infected now. If you were infected with COVID, should you get the vaccine now, or should you wait, a couple months when your natural immunity goes down? What should be the vaccine schedule for somebody who had already been sick?
You have asked a good question. I don't know what the timeline is. I have seen information suggesting that even if you've had COVID-19, you should get a vaccine once you're over it. And I'm assuming you're going to have to wait, 3-4 weeks, but I don't know a specific timeline. But definitely if you've had COVID maybe 2 months ago and you are eligible for the vaccine, you should get it.
Yeah, speaking of where it's going, first wave of shipments, as you had mentioned as well, going to healthcare workers and then nursing home residents. Officials say vaccine should be available to everybody by the middle of next year. We've got 145 distribution centers around the country by today, according to Army General Gustav Perna of Operation Warp Speed. 425 sites will get shipments on Tuesday, and the remaining 66 on Wednesday. Figure about 3 million shots shipped out initially. And then, obviously they're stockpiling a whole bunch more to get that out as we go further on down the line. Are you happy with how this has been earmarked as far as who gets it and when?
I think so. I think it's a very difficult question. You're making judgments on priority, and in a sense, what we're doing is something that we don't do well in this country, which is rationing, but we have to. But I think clearly the frontline healthcare workers who are exposed to COVID patients obviously need to get it first, along with the essential workers that are exposed to the COVID patients. So I think a lot of places are considering the workers in the facilities who are exposed will also get it first. I understand why they want to give the nursing home and facility residents the COVID vaccine, because those are the people that get the sickest, and those are the people that overwhelm the healthcare system, the ICU beds. So I can see some logic there. Then you get into where do you go from, the next phase, kind of that phase 2, and there's a lot of discussion about, who should get it. We have concerns about disparities and minority communities that have such high rates. So it's a difficult decision. And I think so far it's pretty clear who should get it first, but it's going to be more difficult, I think, as we move further down the chain.
Just to make sure I have the accurate, it was Pfizer that rolled out their vaccine?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, they're still working. Moderna will be reviewed by an expert panel this week. Could get the go-ahead maybe as early as next.
Okay, so Pfizer is, but that's still this 2-stage vaccine, correct, Doctor?
Yeah.
All right. So is there any? Are those both stages? One, are they the same vaccine you're getting twice? And two, if they're not, is that second vaccine already sent with the first one? Is there any concern that this first stage of vaccines will be rolled out and then, however, what is it, 2 weeks in between the inoculations? The supply won't be there for
3.
the supply won't be there for the second one.
No, I don't think that's going to be an issue because they are going to track it. I think there's basically a national registry on this. So you're going to track everybody that gets it, which raises some other concerns. But they want to make sure that there's enough doses to make sure that people get both their shots. And that creates some logistic problems, but clearly that has to be part of the planning, that we don't roll it out and then we find out 3 weeks down the road that we don't have the vaccine to give the second shot.
Yeah, because it's supposed to happen, 21 days after the first shot. Does that run into a problem if we run into, it's been 42 days since you had that first shot?
Probably not. I think that the 3 weeks is kind of the minimum. It typically takes 10 days, 2 weeks, maybe a little longer to mount an immune response to viral vaccinations, at least with the flu. That's what we've learned. And I think with this, it's similar. So you need to wait at least 2 plus a little more to 3 weeks to know that you've had the initial immune response from the first shot. So if we wait a few more weeks after the 3 weeks, I don't think that's a big deal.
And then
I don't think it has to be right on 3 weeks.
Okay.
I know we talked about this last week, but I've seen this story pop up quite a bit. So let's just reiterate. If you do get the vaccine, we're still going to wear masks, right, until we're kind of cleared. I think that also goes back to the fact that masks are there to protect others, not yourself. But we keep up with some of these new mitigation efforts even after the vaccine, correct?
Absolutely. Until we have everyone vaccinated and we can demonstrate herd immunity and the incidence has dropped to very tiny levels, we are going to continue these mitigation efforts. We just have to. What we're hitting, 300,000 deaths now in the United States?
Yeah, it's along those lines. And before we let you go, I just had a question that somebody had sent me a message saying they would like me to ask you this. Why do you think anyway? Because I don't know if there's a definite answer on this one, but why do you think with mask wearing compliance higher than it's been throughout the entire pandemic, why are we still seeing numbers along these lines?
Because I think our exposure had increased partly because of Thanksgiving and people were getting together. Part of the fatigue, even though people are wearing masks, maybe they're not doing the other things. They're not washing their hands as often. They're not using the sanitizer. They're not distancing. They're saying, well, I got a mask on. I'm not going to worry about it. And I think the third thing is just this way pandemics go. It just seems like they go in waves regardless of what you do. So there's probably multiple factors there that have created this large wave.
All right. I like I said, I don't know if there is a definite answer on that one, but we definitely wanted to get your thought on why you thought that might be. All right. Well, it's the vaccines are rolling out. We should have more to cover on this topic next week when we get back together again. Dr. Norem, as always, we appreciate the expertise, and if you're up for it, we'll look forward to picking this up again next Monday.
We'll see you next week and have some information, hopefully, on the vaccine.
That would be great. We appreciate it. There's Dr. Dennis Norem from Mercy Health.